It's so good seeing you, isn't it? It's a great day. And I always say it's a good day anytime I'm on this side of the ground. I know many of you all have been traveling and the traffic is horrendous, and I know that you've had many jobs this morning. Somebody was in Haralson County this morning, and you've had many stops for getting here. But I want to thank you all for making time out of your day to be at this meeting, and these meetings to us are very, very important. So before we begin, I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. This is going to be a tough crowd. You know, as a minister, we always say, now you can make it easy on us or hard on yourselves. If you don't applaud and do something, we'll talk forever. So I need some enthusiasm this morning, and know that you're breathing, and you are in a place of worship. Well, I won't even go there. But anyway, I'm just excited to be here. I'm excited anytime I get the opportunity to share, good stuff, like about helping kids in foster care and what more can I do to help the cause? What more can I do to help the cause? My name is Dr. Willie Miles. I'm the statewide coordinator for what is now called Corporate and Community Partnerships. Some of you all know it as the Faith and Community Alliance. We have now put that under the umbrella of community. We are very, very interested in the faith community, and the faith community has served us well. So what does all that mean? It means we're expanding our outreach. We believe there are corporations in the state of Georgia who have not been as engaged with us as we like them to be. And the reason they've not been engaged is because they don't know about us, and we've not invited them, just as a faith community. So part of my responsibility is to go throughout the state and really in the metro area, trying to hit those 20 Fortune 500 companies to make them aware that we exist and that they play a role. They play a very important role with their corporate social responsibility activities to be engaged with us. So what I do is travel the state, meeting with corporations, and even more importantly, meeting with the faith community, talking about the challenges that we're having with divisions, not problems, but challenges we're having, and meeting all the needs of our customers, meeting all the needs of the children who are in foster care, meeting all the needs of the aging population, the forgotten population, and meeting the needs of those children and families who are not living with their custodial parents. So my responsibility is to make sure that people are aware of what is happening with our divisions, and then to invite them in. I do want to share with you that we've had great success throughout the state of Georgia. And I always say that the state of Georgia is a very interesting place, that people here give, and they do want to be involved. They want to be involved. But it's important to let them know that first of all, that we need them, and also that we want them, that we need them and that we want them. And not that we only need them and want them, but our vulnerable children and families need them and want them. That our vulnerable children and families need them and want them. Again, I'm really happy to be in Douglasville, and I want to thank you all again for being here with us this morning. We have sort of a jam-packed program, but this is really all about you all. It's about sharing what we're doing and how we're doing it, and what more can you help us do? What more can you help us do? But before we get into our program, I do want to not welcome him to his own sanctuary. You can't welcome a pastor to his own church, but I do want to bring him up. He's just been such a generous and a hospitable host, Dr. James Harper, who's the senior pastor of the First Presbyterian Church, Douglasville. Let him know we thank him. Like applaud.
Appreciate it. We're glad to have you here today, and it's a privilege to host DFACS for a couple of reasons. One is that, and I will speak to the folks in churches here locally, is that we understand from our sacred text, the Bible, that there are very few things that God commands more often than to care for widows and orphans. It's throughout the Old Testament, it is said again and affirmed in the New Testament, and it's part of our being, it's part of our job. And the other reason I'm glad to have you here is because I don't think we're doing a very good job of it. To be perfectly honest, I think we recognize widows and orphans when we have a sense that they're in our church or in our community, and we are connected to them. But all of the orphans, all of the kids who need foster care in this community are ours. We just don't recognize that we belong to them and they belong to us. And so, recognizing that we're just not doing a very good job of that, our church this year, early in the year, decided we're going to elevate this and make this a commitment of ours, and to try to send that message to the community as well. So we brought in people who are foster parents. We brought in folks who have fostered children, and elevated that as a value and begun the process to correct this. We recognize a lot of things. That's our job. We recognize, though, that God has great love for widows and orphans, a great love for kids who have no one to stand in the gap for them, and that's our job to fulfill that commission and that mission to them. So we're glad to be here because it's important. It's part of what we're supposed to be doing, and it's not what we're doing well. And so when we stand as churches, I'll say this, I stand on behalf of my church, who needs to understand what we can do better to reach and care for these kids in our community. And so we're grateful to be a part of this. Let me pray for us. It's what we do around here, and that may not be what everybody does, but around here we do that. So let me pray for you as you meet. God, we give you thanks and praise that there are folks who have a great love for those kids who are without family, who are foster kids and who are struggling with issues that have temporarily separated them from family. We pray that you would strengthen them for this task. We pray that you would continue to give them the energy and the perseverance to do the job that they have strived so hard to do in the past. Continue that. Continue to use them. I pray that you would raise up volunteers, you'd raise up parents, you'd raise up people who are willing to put their hearts and their lives on the line for the foster kids of this community, if not beyond it. We pray for that day where there's not a single child in this community who needs foster care and has to go beyond the boundaries of this county. We pray that that would change. And we pray these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It gives me great honor to now introduce to you or bring before you the Honorable Councilwoman, Dr. LaShawn Bird Danley, from the city of Douglasville. Do y'all need an applause sign?
Good morning. I am Councilwoman Dr. LaShawn Bird Danley. To the pastor and to all of you that are here, we are definitely honored with the city of Douglasville to be partnering on such a great event. And our mayor is in training on today, but I bring you greetings from the city of Douglasville. We have our city staff, city TV staff here filming this entire event. So share with your coworkers and your friends that after the event, and I'm not sure exactly the days after, but this will be on City TV Live, and you can access it. And so those that are not here will be able to see it. So I am very delighted. I know that our pastors, the mayor actually has a faith-based meeting every month, and Chelsea, our city staff, is here. She is, where are you, Chelsea? There she is. She's in charge of putting that together, and I see our other staff, Ms. Patrice Williams, is here as well. But I just wanted to say this is an honor, and our pastors are the heartbeat of the community, in my opinion. Also, I see Regina back there as well. But our pastors and what we do for our children and what we do for our families will last forever. So thank you for being here, and I'm excited, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak.
You're learning. Some rules. When we introduce a person, you act like you're at a football game. Yay, clap. And when they finish, make them feel real good. You clap, yay. Ready? Let's just have a test run. Pretend someone, well, I am up here talking. Okay, I just introduced myself. I just finished. We got it. We're getting there. We're getting there. All right, we're gonna have a little fun. Well, not for the fun, but this is fun. There's some other officials that are here. I want to call their names. Christina McDermott, Solicitor General. Wave your hand. Stand up so we can see you. There you go. Let's hear it for her. Eva Lloyd, Solicitor General. Let's see how many of these faith folks showed up today. Let's see who really showed up today. I ain't talking about in spirit either. Let's see. Okay. When I call your name, you better cheer like you don't know what you're doing. West Rome Baptist. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Central Baptist. I would say Lutheran services. Are they Lutheran? Are you here? Great. And did I miss anyone from the faith group? I'm coming to you. We have some time. We have some time.
Vonda Thorpe, Daystar Tabernacle.
Don Madlena, Crossroads Church.
Anyone else? The rest of y'all just scared. Y'all just scared. All right, we're gonna get started. Let's see what I got here. Okay, let's see, my not-for-profit group. United Way in the house. Now, I don't know who these are, but help me out. It's PCCI? What does it stand for? Let's hear it for them. Okay, DC Homes Coalition. Where's Families for Families? They didn't sign. Where's Families for Families? All right. I think we cheered each other enough at this point. Give yourself again a round of applause. All right. This really gives me great honor. When we have these meetings, it's very important that you understand that we don't have these just for a show. There's a purpose behind it. We really do need your involvement and your engagement. And the whole idea is to make you aware of what our needs are and the improvements that have been made and things that are happening down the road to get your involvement. So again, it's not just a meeting to meet, it's a meeting to make you more aware of the need that we have for you. This is one of my first time really introducing this young lady, and I don't know so much about her, but one thing I do know is that she's always calm, unlike myself. She's always calm, and I just believe that behind calmness, there has to be some force. And you don't have to always be arrogant and pushy to be forceful. Well, she's a calm spirit, but very forceful behind the scenes. And it's done great things for children throughout the state of Georgia. Not only the state of Georgia, but throughout the world. I mean, I consider her a subject matter expert when it comes to children and families and child welfare and in foster care. So I want you all to give the Chief of Staff, Virginia Pryor, a warm and welcome applause.
Good morning. So where's Ellen? She tells me what to do. Must I? Okay. Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I have a real phobia about these chairs, and I figure if it falls here, I can get some healing. At least I can get that if that happens. Okay. All right. Yeah, I hate them. But I'm really honored to be here with you this morning to talk about how we can partner together to improve the lives of children and families. And I just can't think of a better place to do that than in the house of the Lord. I mean, I've had many opportunities to meet different folks in the community of different faith, and the Promise 686, their Psalm scripture always sticks out for me because it talks about God places the lonely in families. And so I always remember that, because the work that we do at the division, that's really what it's about. We place children in good families so that they can have the opportunity to grow and to thrive. And I also am excited about this meeting because since I am in his house, I can say that where 2 or 3 are gathered together, he is in the midst of that. So whatever we hope for, whatever we desire to do here today in community and in agreement, it's already done, right? So I'm really excited about that, because I know, again, whatever we talk about and whatever we touch and agree on here today, again, it's already done. It's already in the works. We're talking about it right now, but it's already happening. So before I get started, I would really like to bring up my Deputy Division Director of Child Welfare, and that's Jeff Lukage. So if you could give him a round of applause, I'd appreciate it. I think you're gonna see See that? He hops up, you know, I'm like, steps, please.
I trust the stage, but I also don't trust this chair. So good morning, everyone. Good morning, Ginger.
Good morning, Jeff. And I'm really excited because my team is also here as well, too. We have our deputies that are here. John Anderson is our Chief Deputy of OFI, which is the Office of Family Independence, and Carol Christopher, who is the Deputy Division Director of Systems Reform. And then we also have our county directors that are here in Region 3. I have my regional director that's here, and just all of our staff that work as a team to make sure that we keep children and families safe. I may be able to get the privilege to come and talk to you this morning, but at the end of the day, it really isn't me that is out there doing the work. It's my team, and I just get the privilege to stand next to them. And they're the ones that, you know, allow me to be up here and talk about the work. But, you know, my niece always says, you don't want to talk about it, you got to be about it. And so when it's time to be about it, it's my team that is out there interfacing with families. And so I get the privilege and the honor to show up here on behalf of them, and I'm glad that they allow me to do that. So really quickly, just a tiny bit about me, and thank you for that introduction. I felt I'm calm, and, you know, I took that in. You know, I was like, I want to make sure that I am that person, that I am calm, but I suppose that there's a little force that sits behind that, because I'm forceful for children and families. I'm passionate about serving. And so I came here to Georgia about 3.5 years ago. I'm actually from Seattle, Washington. I have been serving in child welfare for 27 years now, and that really is my life's work. And, you know, when folks introduce me, of course, most of the time folks will introduce you by your title, and I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, I'd just like to say to you all, I'm the daughter of James Pryor. That is my dad. My dad is 88 years young, and he still lives in Seattle, and you know, my team has heard me tell this story before, but I'm sure he's probably getting ready to no, he's up. He's actually up on the West Coast, and he's probably driving around somewhere in his Crown Victoria. That is his ride. He has been driving that car forever. And, you know, my dad at 88 years old, he still gets up early in the morning. He goes and serves at his church. He works at the food bank. He delivers meals to families. And so when you have that kind of example from your parents, I mean, you can't help but serve, because you've watched them serve your entire life. My mom, Rosamond Scott, she's in Seattle as well, and she's 77 years young. My mom has been serving her entire life. She retired from the University of Washington. She was the person that basically told me I could do whatever I set my mind to. And, you know, my parents are the reason that I sit up here on this stage today, because they have made sacrifices so that I could do this work. I can't even begin to recall all of the sacrifices, and sacrifices I probably don't even know that they made so that I could do this work that I do. And, you know, with my mom, when I first moved here, she flew out from Seattle to make sure that I got settled into my first place. And I'll never forget, you know, when she was on her way here, before she arrived, she calls me and she says, okay, so what neighborhood are you living in? What neighbor did you pick? You know, are you close to the police station? You got this going on. She goes, are you on the 3rd floor? Because, you know, you're single, you can't live, you know, on the 1st floor. Does it have security? Is your parking, you know, is your car secured? You know, I'm 48 years old. Yeah, right? And my mom is still telling me all the things that I need to remember when I move in. Yes, Mom. Yep, check, check. So when she comes and my furniture arrives, you know, my mom helps me unpack. She helps me put up every picture, you know, that's on the wall when she was here. And, you know, I tell that story because I think about what our children in foster care don't have sometimes. They don't have the mom or the dad that's going to fly 2,700 miles to make sure that after all these years still, that she's the one that comes and helps me get my place set up. After all these years, before she leaves, she cooks all my favorite meals and puts them in little Tupperware. That was probably the only time for a week that I had a meal like every day to eat since she went back. But that's family. That's what family does. I talk to my parents almost every day. You know, we coordinate time. My dad and I still watch, well, you know, I'll say it out loud. Yes, the Seahawks is my team. I recognize I'm in Falcon territory, and I respect that. But my dad and I, we watch the game together. And even though he's on the West Coast and there's a time difference, every time a touchdown's made, every time a play didn't go the way we thought it should go, you know, he picks up the phone and, you know, did you see that? But that's family. That's what family does. And it doesn't matter the distance. It doesn't matter the time difference. I'm connected to my family. And so I wanted to share that with you because I think that that is what's important about who you have working on behalf of children, because that's what I'm made of. I'm not made of the title. I'm made of what was put into me so that I could do this work. And that's what makes up the chief of staff. The official role is I have the privilege of being second in command of the organization, and what that means is that, you know, I serve with Director Cagle, and I have oversight of family and of social services, as well as OFI, as well as systems reform. But at the end of the day, the highest calling for me in my role is, as opposed to being second in command, I serve the 13,000 children that we have in care, and that's what I'm called to do, and I will continue to do that. I serve the 150,000 calls of children that we get each year that come to our attention. They may not come into the system, but that's really what I do. I serve my staff to make sure that they have all of the resources that they need to get the job done so that we can make sure that children get returned home safely, that they can be with their families, their grandma, their grandpa, their aunt, their uncle. If we are unable to do that, we make sure that they are in homes where they're loved and that they're safe, and that we can make sure that they're adopted. We make sure that they have a faith home to come to. I want to thank you, Pastor, for opening up your home to us today, because I oftentimes, when I get the privilege to speak with pastors, they may ask, what is it that we can do? And the bottom line is, you know, this is your church home. If my children in foster care don't have a home to go to, that's a problem. They need to not only have a physical home, but they need to have a faith home too. And that is our role in the faith community, is to serve and to make sure that our children are a part of the flock, and that they have a place to anchor. You know, I was talking, it probably was Wayne, and we were talking about there are, as I said, 13,000 children in care. There are enough churches here that if one church just took hold of one child, we wouldn't have any children in the system. Can you imagine that? Just one, not 100, not 1,000. Across the state, if just one church took one child, we would eradicate the need for having to call on foster parents and do all these things, because the church would be that foster parent. They would foster that child and foster whatever needs that child has and foster that family. So when people ask what they can do, foster a child in the global capacity of what that means, mentoring them, feeding them, encouraging them, being another parent in their life, extending the constellation of people that they have that are cheering for them, that are helping them to achieve their educational goals, that are raising them up in the way that they should go so that they won't part from it. Those are the things that we can do right now that technically don't cost us anything but our time. And so lastly, what I will say before I take up all the air from Jeff is that we've been working for the past 3.5 years on a reform effort called the Blueprint for Change. And you see some of that signage here now and over here on the left-hand side. When I came here 3.5 years ago, I actually came to Georgia as a consultant. I was doing some work with Casey Family Programs. I had been with their foundation. They're the largest operating foundation in the United States that focuses solely on foster care. I was with them for 11.5 years. And I had the privilege to travel to about 46 states, child welfare jurisdictions, and work with them to help improve their child welfare systems. And so I got a call to come here to meet this dynamic individual named Bobby Cagle, because Georgia was about to enter into a massive reform because there were many challenges, and I'll only name a few, but high staff turnover. We only actually had about 50% of the staff that we needed to do the job. We had 9,000 overdue investigation and family support cases. And essentially, for those of you who are not steeped in child welfare, ultimately what that really means is that 9,000 children, we didn't really have a beam or a light on what was going on with 9,000 of them because those cases were overdue. Can you imagine that feeling of not knowing if those 9,000 children were safe because we didn't have the bandwidth to be able to address the needs of those children? And there were many other things that were happening with the system. We were not doing well with our partnerships. We weren't coming out and meeting with the community. When I first got here, I met a lot of folks from my team, and it was the first time that they had met leadership from state office. We have 14 regions and 159 counties. And can you imagine in the span of 10 plus 11 some odd years, some folks have been here for 20 plus years or more, never had an opportunity to speak with the director? How can you improve a child welfare system and we don't even take the time to go out and interface with the community and talk about what their needs are? My staff is a part of the community. They're not just staff, they live in neighborhoods. They're right across the street maybe, or living right next door to a child that has a need. They're going to the bank and the grocery store and church just like everybody else, and so they're a part of a community, but we weren't talking to them. And so we needed to do something different about that, and that's what we set out to do, and that was the blueprint for change that focuses on 3 key areas. Robust workforce. We needed to go about the business of improving our workforce to make sure that they had the salaries that they needed to do the job. And so I want to just give quick thanks to the governor and the General Assembly and the legislature that, they made sure consistently for the past 3 years that we have received raises for all staff. And then in this last fiscal year, we received 19% on average to raise the market rate salary of our frontline staff. That is the first time that that's happened, not only in this system, but it is one of the first times it's happened in any system across child welfare, to see that level of raise, to say to our staff that we value them enough to raise their salary to market rate rent for the market rate salary for being a first responder. Some folks don't think that our staff are first responders. They are absolutely first responders. Absolutely first responders. We had to make sure that we had staff to coach and mentor. We have a young workforce. Since we had such turnover, we have staff that may barely have been on the job for 2 years. And so when you have high turnover like that, folks need to be supported and coached. That was one of the main reasons why our staff were leaving. When we would do exit interviews, they didn't feel like they were being supported. So again, through the support of the governor and the General Assembly, the legislature, and the Child Welfare Council, we were able to bring in 27 staff to be supervisory mentors. So it's a part of our supervisory mentor program. We've been able to bring on 55 new positions to provide 24/7 support for our foster parents, because our foster parents gave us feedback that they weren't getting the support that they needed, from a return phone call to working in partnership with all of our providers that are here today about, can we get diapers? Can we, we need meals, when we get a child that comes into our home at 2 o'clock in the morning and we might not be prepared for that. So these positions are going to provide that 24/7 support to families, and there are a myriad of things that have happened. We've had 628 new staff that have come into the division for the past 3 years, and so we're now 75% operational with the staff we need. We started out with high caseloads of 30, 40, children per caseworker. Now we're on average of 18 to 19, which is a tremendous difference in where we were 3 years ago. We're not where we want to be. We want to be 15 to 1, but we're on the right road to getting there. The second part of the blueprint is our practice model. We didn't have consistency in the way we practice, and really ultimately what that means is that we were not consistent in the way we showed up in families' lives. And quite frankly, we weren't consistent in the way that we showed up in the lives of our partners. And so practice models are really our contextual framework of how we do the work. It's not just about policy, because policy doesn't necessarily change anything. It is the way in which we practice. It is the way in which we show up consistently. Policy is just something that helps to guide that. But a practice model provides that framework so that whether you're here in Douglasville or whether you are, in, I won't say it right, Albany, because I say Albany, but it's Albany. It doesn't matter where you are. When you interface with someone from the division, it needs to be not only consistent, but it needs to be good. And it needs to be quality, because our families deserve that. I always say the standard of one. What is the standard for your child? If you have a standard and high standard for your child, then should it not be the same standard that we have for children in foster care, because they're all our children. So we have a practice model that's in place now called solution-based casework. Solution-based casework, we began training our staff last year. We actually will be complete with the training in April of 2018. To date, we've trained over 2,000 of our staff in solution-based casework. And the final pillar is constituent engagement. And that's really what we're doing today, and that's about building relationships. We want to be in relationship with people, because if you're not in relationship with people, you can't get anything done. I don't care how much money you bring in. I don't care what you say you're going to do, because it's not about what you say you're going to do. That's important, but it's really about what you do, because what you do is the measure of who you are, not what you say. And so you need to be in relationship with people. As Jeff will say, you need to show up for what's up in relationship. And so we want to be about the business of doing that. And so the opportunity to come here and meet with the faith community and the partners that are connected to that, that's a part of that. We meet with our providers when we're on our road shows. We spend time with them. We spend time with the police force and with our judges and with legislators. We meet with our staff, because it is going to take all of us, not just the division. The division is only one element of what needs to happen to improve the lives of children and families. Quite frankly, the division is about intervention primarily. So families have already gone through massive amounts of turmoil by the time they knock on our door. Imagine if we had strong collective impact around families. We could pretty much mitigate the need for children to come into the foster care system. I will know that my job is done and I can rest when no child has to come into the foster care system. And so that's a pretty long road that we have ahead of us to say one day, because of the strength of the community, because of our collective impact, we now no longer need to have children come into the foster care system. And that will be a day that we will be able to rejoice. And so on my final note, I will say that I think the reform effort is going well. I am proud to be a part of this team and of the division to move this work forward. And I'm excited about what is ahead for the division. And what's ahead for the division is not just the blueprint for change, but it's the blueprint for change, our journey toward a state of hope. And ultimately what a state of hope means is exactly what Reverend Miles said. It's about us collectively working together. And the pastor said earlier as well too that, sometimes we don't do so good. Like if, you're in the church and you're a member here or at another church, we'll serve you because you're a part of that immediate flock. But the larger church, the person that's on the corner that I'm sure many of us drove by today, myself included, when I saw two homeless guys on the bench with a little thin blanket covering them, they're a part of that community that needs our support. The story I will tell you about our journey towards hope is that there was a woman who lived in a community. There was a young man that sat on the corner every day. Everybody in the community would drive past him. Nobody stopped, but people began to wonder, like, what is he doing? I mean, is he gonna, negative thoughts start. Is he gonna rob somebody? Like, what's gonna happen? But nobody stopped though. They just thought about it and just kept on driving every day. And this woman drove past this corner every day and she would see this young man there. So finally one day she said, you know what? I'm gonna stop. And so she stopped. And what she found out when she leaned in to this young man was that his mom left him there on that corner. And so he had some mental health challenges and he had no place to go. And so he kept coming back to that corner every day in hopes that his mom would show up on this corner. And that's why he stood on the corner. So you know what she did? She took him home to her family. She happened to be an owner of a restaurant. She ended up employing him, and he became a part of her family. One person, just one. Didn't take like a whole entourage of folks. It was one woman who decided, today is the last day I'm gonna drive past this guy. And I'm gonna lean in and find out what's going on. And that, my friends, is a state of hope. It's not fancy. It's not a lot of lights and fanfare. It's about collective impact, because with our collective impact, we can ensure that children are safe, we can strengthen families, and we can have a stronger Georgia by leaning in for a state of hope. So I hope that you will join us in that journey as we begin to roll out regions of hope across the state. We already have a robust region of hope, or Northwest region of hope here in Region 3. Actually, it's in Region 1 and Region 3. If you want to learn more about what's happening in the Northwest region of hope, Keith, can you raise your hand? Keith Bostic is the regional director for Region 3. He'd be more than happy to share information with you about what's happening in this very region and how people are leaning in to change the lives of the children and families that we say we want to serve. So I want to thank you for your time. Jeff, I know that I just totally, took away a lot of your time, but, what I will say as I turn it over to Jeff is that Jeff was one of the first persons that I met when I came to the division. And what I will say is that it has just been an honor to be on this journey, with him. You always have to have partners, that are with you in this journey, because we can't do it by themselves. I have a nickname that I call him Scarecrow. And that comes from the Wizard of Oz. Because I kind of felt like Dorothy, when I came here. Dorothy wasn't at home. She didn't really know like where her families were, and she was always trying to get back home, but she met some really good friends along the way. And the first person that she met was the Scarecrow. And the Scarecrow ended up becoming her like most trusted advisor. If any of you watch The Wizard of Oz, there's actually a little message in The Wizard of Oz. I mean, it's fun to watch, but there's a pretty powerful message about friendship and connection, and that we are not on this journey alone, we're on this journey together. And Scarecrow ran around and thought he didn't have any brains, but at the end of the day, the Scarecrow was the brains of the operation, because he was the one that always laid out a plan when they needed to go do things. And that's what Jeff does. He is the man with the plan. And so with that, Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Can everybody hear me okay? Well, first of all, good morning to everyone. We're so happy to be here in Douglasville, and I have to say this is such a beautiful facility we're in. I made a goal on January 1 of this year to try to be more present every day, not just present with people, but present where I am. And I have to tell you, I cannot take my eyes off this window up here, which is one of the most beautiful stained glass windows I've ever seen. And it's just gorgeous, just a beautiful color blue, and just really happy to be here. But if you saw me glancing, that's what I was looking at. So, but good morning, I am Mr. Scarecrow. And I said yesterday when she first started calling me Scarecrow, I had to go watch The Wizard of Oz again, because like you said to me, he was just some skinny, goofy guy who didn't have a brain. And this was before I really knew her that well. She had not shared a story with me, so I was wondering how long I would be employed at the time. But I have to tell you before we kind of get going, morning is the absolute most favorite part of the day for me. I'm a runner. In fact, this morning I went out and ran about an hour here in the city of Atlanta on the Beltline, and I just love seeing, and I always begin in the dark, and I love seeing the sun come up. I really like to see it come up and kind of look at it, and I usually stop and say a prayer. And I'll just stop my run, look at the sun, close my eyes, and then say a prayer. Sometimes the sun will reflect off of the city of Atlanta if I'm on the Beltline, and it's just really beautiful. For me, as you can imagine, for many of you, the morning and the sunrise really means a new beginning. And so I thought about that as Ginger was talking, because today is a Faith and Community Alliance. It's not DFACS tells you what we need to do, it's really about the community, no matter how large or small, and the faith community coming together, no matter what you did the day before, the week before, the year before. It's about coming together today locking arms around the needs of families, not just children, but we're here to build strong families. And making a decision about how we may move forward. Today could be that you just meet somebody new in another church or with DFACS or among our own team, and you just begin to talk. How can we help? After all, the church is the original social service agency, in my opinion. I grew up Catholic in the low country of South Carolina, in a low-income family. And I can remember, our priest coming by and visiting, my brothers and my mom, and sometimes they would bring us things, because we often couldn't make it through the week. And so we sought help among our church family, and that's the way it was. So church is the original social service agency. I've been here in Georgia, as Ginger said, I'm the Deputy Director of Child Welfare. But I really see myself as an ambassador for this agency and everything that we do for families. And I began in October of 1989, 12 days before my 23rd birthday. So I was right out of college and found myself sitting at the front desk of DFACS in Richmond County in Augusta. And to be honest with you, I felt at home, and I still feel at home. I've probably had 12 or 13 titles since 1989, and to be honest with you, title really doesn't matter. As Ginger said, we are here to do this work. And we do a lot of work in our division. Ginger mentioned 13,500 foster children that are in our system, but we also serve thousands and thousands of families in other programs that we do. Through our Office of Family Independence, where we administer food stamps, we administer TANF, Medicaid. There's so much else we do in child welfare. We have foster care. And then more about what you probably see in the community is we are out every day trying to fight to keep kids safe who come in harm's way, and that is done through our protection programs. And so we employ probably close to 8,000 employees in DFACS. And so every day we try to get up and do the right work, and then a new day comes. And it goes back to the sunrise I mentioned. So I'm not, we mentioned force, and certainly our chief of staff is a force. I'm not so sure I'm a force, but I am a fighter, and I consider myself a fighter. I think I'm this skinny guy that was meant to be a boxer in a future life, because I really think about this as a good fight that we're all in. And so today, if you think about the word alliance, just think about that as we begin the discussion today about how we might help. And I know that we'll talk about what DFACS may need. But who is here from other church communities in the area? Just raise your hand. Raise your hand really high for us. So who is a member of this church? Okay. And so we have folks here from other church communities. And I think that what my hope is that we'll all just make sure we leave today committing to one thing we can do. And it could just be make a phone call to another church. It could be make a phone call to Keith Bostic, our regional director. Whatever it may be, let's make a commitment to do one thing and then build on that one thing. And I think today will be a success.
Okay, let's hear it for him again. But one thing I want to encourage you with is that the word says that the poor shall be with you always. We're not going to ever eradicate children in foster care. It shouldn't be the same children trying to get placed in it. It should not be the same child in foster care for 13 years. It should not be the same child in foster care for 2 years. So our goal is to get those home ready, because there are many other children who are going to need to be blessed by us. And I also want to say, don't wait till there's none to celebrate. When y'all place one child, you better celebrate. When you place one, every time you celebrate, every time one child goes, celebrate. I'll just share this with you parenthetically. I went to a weight clinic, and every time I lose 1 pound, she'd ring that bell. I said, don't ring no more bells. But my point is that when you place one child, start ringing the bell in your head that you save one more. Across the state. So you're not failing, you're doing great things. And I think we have a lot to celebrate. What about y'all? Okay. This is a good time right here for questions and answers. Now, it's kind of amazing. I always tell folk, just like church, don't have people in front of you who can answer the question. Then start the street committee questions when you leave outside of here. You know, street committee is that, child, what were they talking about? Why they ain't mentioned that? No, ask the folk who are here before you today. Don't ask the street committee. So, do any of you all have a question you have for our folk here?
Thank you. I'm Portia Lake with Douglas County Schools. What can our schools do more to support our children and our students? What can teachers specifically do?
Wow, and that's a great question. You know, I think that if you see a need for a child, you know, to reach out we have Kay and Jim and Susan, they're county directors that are here, and Lindsay. Reach out to our county offices because you may see a child, let's say a child comes and you think that they might need some help with clothing or food. You know, oftentimes a child, the only meal that they're going to receive is when they come to school to get that meal. Our county offices, you know, Jeff mentioned it, but my chief deputy's here from OFI. You know, the first line of prevention really is OFI. OFI provides temporary assistance for needy families, and SNAP, our supplemental nutrition program. We might be able to help feed a family. There are many things that sit underneath that. It's not necessarily just, you know, families get, you know, a check for temporary assistance and things like that. They do training. You know, this is my first foray really into learning more about OFI, and I myself am still learning more and more about all of the things that we offer for prevention. So connect with our offices because they can, you know, connect a child to clothing. We can get children connected to food. If you need support, additional support around mandated reporter training, we can help that because you all are our eyes and ears actually. You see the children probably more than anyone aside from our foster parents because they spend time with you all day in school. And so we need you to be kind of that front line of defense for us. If you see, it's kind of like the airport, right? If you see something, say something. And so if there's additional training or support that you all need from us to strengthen any mandated reporting, I think the last thing I'll say, and my county directors or others may have additional answers, that education is a really critical need that we're focusing on. Across the state, we have an 11% graduation rate for children in foster care, which is, sometimes I hate to even say it out of my mouth because quite frankly, it's just embarrassing. Like, it is embarrassing to have to say that children that we're responsible for, that we're the parent, you know, and I think the state makes a terrible parent. I don't care what state you're in. Children aren't raised by systems, they're raised by people. But to have an 11% graduation rate, all education leads to employment. So if our children aren't graduating, then guess what? Their ability to earn a livable wage that allows them not only to pay into the tax base and all those things that are a return on investment for Georgia, but for them to live whole and full lives. And so we need our teachers as educators to, if you see some additional need for tutoring and other things to go on, that we're in partnership with you about that. And then I would also encourage, while it's not here in Douglasville, it's in Rome, there's Restoration Rome, which is a part of our Northwest Region of Hope. And that is one of those collective impact or one-stop shop centers where providers are located there, the faith-based community, CASA, a wealth of providers that are there to provide supports to families. They have a clothing closet, they have a food pantry. So there are places, and the division actually co-locates there in Restoration Rome as well. Those are the places where we can anchor and get families connected, and maybe together we can actually mitigate children from coming into the system. But the county directors or Keith may have additional things for the school system.
Yeah, we love teachers who are foster parents for sure. We really do. You know, what I would add really quick is we've all heard the saying that not every problem is a nail and not every solution is a hammer. And I thought about that, thinking about this problem, because not every problem a family faces requires a report of child abuse and neglect. And so I would say let's recognize that especially educators are our most valued stakeholders, because Ginger said you're with the child sometimes more than the parents. But If you're unsure how the school might be able to help a family and it falls outside of abuse or neglect, make a phone call to our local county director and just chat about it for a minute. And let's, you know, we're here to certainly take child abuse and neglect reports, but we're also here to be a partner to you to find solutions in the community that may not otherwise fit within our agency.
And I just wanted to add that as well. We're working with our school systems talking about parent engagement. And that is something that our school systems can really help by offering compassion and communication to our parents, because many times if the school system has to submit a child abuse or neglect report, obviously we do not notify them who the reporter is, but based on the circumstances and the information that's given, a lot of the times the parents can figure that out. And it becomes an adversarial relationship between the school systems and the parents, and we don't want that, because really the teachers, the school counselors, all of those can be advocates for parents as well. Many of our parents in our community in Floyd County haven't had the support and the guidance and the positive mentoring and positive parenting. And so our school teachers and counselors can be there to offer that well before a report is ever made, and connect families to community resources. So that's just one I wanted to add in addition to what Jeff had pointed out too.
Hey, my name is Kelly Smith. I'm with United Way, and I know that United Way, we're a partner of yours, but we're also a partner with Douglas County Schools. And just another resource that I wanted to bring to light that really helps children tackle their social barriers towards educational success is Communities in Schools. Now, I'm not familiar if there's one here in the county, which I think there is, but that's another resource that really can be a great resource for tackling those social barriers when children are homeless, when children are in foster care, because they've really lost hope, which is what you're saying about 11% graduation rate, which is astounding to me. But also great information as I go and talk to companies. That's part of my role with United Way. But I just wanted to share that as another resource and a partner. United Way is a partner. I don't know your name over there with in Douglas County Schools, but I can connect you with my counterpart here in Douglas County and United Way, and he could be another great resource and asset to you with Douglas County Schools.
That's awesome. That's what I'm talking about, right there.
Hi, good morning. My name is Carol Chateau. I'm the community coordinator here in Douglas County for the Department of Community Supervision. A lot of the parents that you serve their children are coming out. We need more collaboration as far as family reunification for even sharing of information, which is a lot of red tape. Even when you report something, you really can't get a follow-up to it. And I'm glad that your department is changing. We're changing from Department of Corrections to Department of Community Supervision, so we're going through a change too. I would love to see more collaboration between the two agencies because we have a lot in common.
Hey, well, I'm glad you're here. I'm a big fan of the Department of Community Supervision. So our assistant deputy director is sitting right here, Lon Roberts, and he and I spent a lot of last year working with your leadership on a MOU. And so they're actually, it's in place now, right, Lon? It has been signed both by our department and your department about ways that we should be collaborating. So I would encourage you to check with Lon or go back and talk with your own leadership team and look at a copy of that. It is new, which could be why a lot of our staff and your staff may not be aware of it, but it is one of the most successful, I think, collaborations that our department, and I give kudos to Community Supervision because you guys changed and became a new department, and you're fully functioning in 1 year. Like you guys really pulled it together, and that's one thing that Lon and I both learned. So yeah, there's something in place, including collaborating visits to families. We share families, and that's what you're talking about.
Thank you. I have two questions. The first question is related to adoption. There's a family that approached me, and they have a niece. Well, I guess it would be adoption within the family. a niece who they would like to adopt, and the mother is okay with that. The problem is funding to pay for an attorney. What other alternatives do you have for families that do want to adopt but may not can afford the dollars and cents that come with it?
Thank you. Stephen, I'm going to toss that question to you. Stephen works in our state office, and he does the work around It's My Turn Now, which is about connecting families so that they can have children that are adopted, and so he's a wealth of knowledge. So, Stephen, thank you.
Yes. Regarding information regarding those persons who may need an attorney, we have regional adoption coordinators in all of our region, in all 14 of our regions, and there are a lot of nuances regarding getting an attorney, but we'll be happy if I can get your contact information, and we'll walk that young lady through the entire process of getting an attorney. Because I don't want to table everyone else through all of that information, but I'd love to talk with you about that and get some information from you so we can walk you through the entire process to her getting an attorney.
Hi, Amy Kinetic. I'm a community advocate in Floyd and Bartow County, and my heart is for strengthening families and restoring families where possible. But what I run into when I'm trying to help families is that sometimes when we're offering help, we're kind of enabling the cycle to continue. So I wonder if the state's looked at or has a vision for how we can help families be accountable for the resources and the assistance that they get, so that we're empowering them to kind of own how their future improves, and not just a handout but a hand up. And because it just, sometimes we're guilty of enabling the situation to continue and that to become generational because we haven't helped them learn that accountability piece.
And I think that's a two-part answer, and I think that there are two folks here that can address it. One, solution-based casework, and I would like for Lynn to talk a little bit about our practice model, and then I'd like John to talk about OFI, because with OFI around the educational and training, because I do believe it is about, you know, breaking generational cycles for families. And I think there's a balance of supporting families in need and then partnering alongside of them so that they can learn to do those things. So Lynn?
Sure. We are implementing the practice model of solution-based casework across the state. All of our staff have just recently been trained. And what that practice model really involves is empowering those families to make the decisions, to be involved, and to not, especially for our staff, to not make plans for the families. We really make sure that we are meeting with the families, having them come up with their own plans, really looking at their natural supports. We are looking at their extended family, their non-familial supports, and looking outside the typical providers that we may pay, so that when we close our case, that family doesn't fall back. They don't revert at all. They keep that safety net, they keep that support system around them.
And one of the ways we do that is actually the family team meeting approach. We have what we call family team meeting facilitators. It's a neutral party, and it brings the family together, our DFACS staff together. I was recently in one of those, and we actually had a 12-year-old child that's currently out of home, that we were developing his return home plan, and that's what he named it. He wanted to say, okay, this is my I get to go home plan. And he actually asked me point blank, he said, well, my mom needs housing. Why can't you just pay for it? And so I thought, okay, well, that's a very good question. So we talked a lot about how, you know, you're a mature little 12-year-old, so let's have this discussion. You know, your mom wants to achieve independence. And I pointed to her and said, you know, do you want to stand on your own 2 feet? And she was absolutely yes. Things have been given to me constantly. I want to be able to sustain it. And she had that conversation directly with her child during that family team meeting and was able to say, you know, I need to learn how to take care of myself first, And then you can come home. It's not about DFACS just giving me the money. It's about me finding a place that's suitable for you, for me, and that I can support on my own. So it's also having those honest and transparent conversations, and us as a team, and you guys can help us in that as part of the family team meetings. As any time that you are working with a family and you're seeing that kind of enabling cycle, point it out, talk to us about it, so that we as a group can come together and have that communication with the parent and really hopefully break that cycle.
And I'm from Paulding County, Jim Provost. I think also, as Lindsay had pointed out, it's important not for us to be the only support that the family has. In Paulding County, we have a great community resource, the support partners, and bringing them in and working with the family. Actually, we had a similar case where we had a mom who, she had to be able to maintain housing, she had to get a job, and we did not tell her how to do this. We asked her how she was going to do that, and then supported her in finding that job, in finding housing, and how she was going to support herself and her children. And her children were able to be reunified because she worked through that plan. But the support partners, which is not part of our office, was able to be out in the community with her and support her through that process. And should she need more support or resources in the community, they are going to be able to step in and work with her without her having to come back to our office.
And with the food stamp program, we're going to be opening up some more funds and more slots available for families and individuals that want to participate in our education and training program. We've been running this program in different parts of the state for several years that have been mostly focused on those able-bodied adults without children, you know, that may need to help finish their education or get a vocational degree, that type of thing. We've taken that same model that we're approaching today, where we're engaging in the community, and we've been partnering with the Goodwill organization, other organizations that may already be serving families to try to help them get on their feet, finish up whatever they're doing, and we're connecting all those pieces together for some of these families to be able to expand that to more individuals that want to have those assistance. We're in October, I'm really excited about this. October, in a few more weeks, we'll be opening this up to low-income, any low-income family in the SNAP program in Fulton County. We're going to be piloting this so that if you have a mom that comes in that needs to finish her high school education, or she needs to get a vocational degree, all those types of things, we're going to have those services available for those women to help wrap around even more services than we're already offering in the community. So I think there's a lot of potential there.
Just to round out this conversation and to also address your concern, I mean, one of the things that we consciously are doing and moving forward is to speak the language that we want, speak the behavior, and speak the modeling that we want for our families as we partner and we engage with them. The new practice model focuses a lot on engagement and talks about engagement just not at the initial point of contact, but engagement through and beyond. And so what I'd like to share with my staff, and as we go about this, is that the individuals that we are connecting with are people first, children first, who happen to have. They're children and people and families who happen to have. And why I say that and why we kind of talk about that is that helps us to normalize their situation. Because if I view them as people and families and communities first who happen to have, they happen to have a need for our service. All of us, we're people, or we're families, or we're communities who will happen to have a need at some point in time. And so when we begin to look at it like that, then we begin to have a better view of looking at it shoulder to shoulder. It's not those folk, it's not those children, but it is, this, you know, we would be doing the same thing for our families who might happen to have a need.
We're now moving to a section that's very sensitive to me, or very special to me, adoptions. I am a single male who adopted 3 boys out of foster care. I often talk about I stayed pregnant 3 years straight. And I tell the audiences oftentimes that when I got the boys, alternate years, that they were in therapy. After the adoptions, I was in therapy. We all good, though, we all good. They are now 27, 29, and 32 and doing well. Right? So if I can do that, somebody out here can do that. I want to bring Stephen Turner again to talk about the adoptions. Thank you. Let's hear for them again. I forgot they were up there. You all right?
Since we are here at church, I guess I can say I was glad when they said unto me, let us go to the house of First Presbyterian Church. Good morning. Good morning. I have a very small part to play in this morning's gathering, and I want to talk briefly, just very briefly, and make an appeal to you regarding our It's My Turn Now photo listing books. Our It's My Turn Now photo listing books. And what we normally do is we normally place these photo listing books in your folders, but I elected to keep those this time because of this special appeal that I want to make to you this morning. And what I really want to do is I want to have the opportunity to have just a small dialogue with all of you at the conclusion of this meeting or this gathering this morning. And I want to, number one, get your name, and I want to get your address, and I want to have the opportunity to let you know that I want you to help us get these photo listing books into your community. Or, since we're in church, another word, I want you to help us evangelize and get these photo listing books into your communities. We have some 300 plus children without an adoptive resource. And as you can see, and I'll have the opportunity to show you in a few minutes, when you come up to me at the conclusion of this gathering, we went from this booklet here, this photo listing booklet here, of children who are legally free to be adopted. It's in black and white. It looks like a phone book, but it's a catalog. It's a catalog of children. And I remember when I was young, my mom used to work at Sears, and she would bring home these Sears catalogs, and we would go through it, my brother and I, to see what kind of toys we wanted. We always went to the toys and went to the football section where the bedspreads were, and I wanted the Cowboys, and he wanted the Dolphins. But I went from talking about a Sears catalog to a catalog of children. Catalog of children. And something about that just doesn't sit right with me. So when I'm out anywhere, I spread the word about this photo listing book. And I want to tell you about two testimonies. Since I'm in church, I can say that. I'll tell you about two quick testimonies. In March of this year, I was at my had a dental appointment, and I'm talking to my hygienist, and I went to the car as Ms. Pryor was speaking, because I wanted to show you what I presented to my hygienist. And she was putting on her gloves and getting ready to do her thing on my teeth. And I said, hey, Miss Shana, this is for you. And I handed her one of my photo listing books with the little clip on it, the little chips clip on it. And she looked through it, took her gloves back off, she looked through it, she said, wow, I'm thankful, Stephen, that you gave this to me because I was in foster care. And the only thing I didn't say anything about where I worked at. I just handed her a photo listing book with a chip clip on it. And we had a dialogue about what my job entailed and how I want to get the word out regarding our children who are in need of an adoptive home. So she and I had a conversation about that just this past week. Last Thursday, I'm a youth football coach for both my son's teams, and I was led, and this young lady, one of these particular parents, she has 4 children. She has 2 sets of twins. Now she has 5 children, 2 sets of twins, and a daughter who's on a cheerleading team with my daughter. And I felt led by the Lord to just hand her a photo listing book, and at the time I had a t-shirt. And I gave both of those to her, and she said, oh, thank you, Coach, I really appreciate this. I could have been one of those children in this photo listing book because I was in foster care too. And I didn't even know her So I had the opportunity to have a dialogue with her about, hey, can you help our agency? Can you help our state get the word out that we need homes for children? We need foster parents. And we had a small dialogue there. So you have the opportunity as well to have just a small dialogue. I leave those photo listing books when I go to my dentist, when I have my annual checkup. My doctor, he's an empty nester, and every time I come there, I go to see him, and I have to see him on next Thursday. We're gonna have a conversation about, Doc, are you ready to get some children in your home? Doc, do you want to adopt? And I know he might tell me no, but I hope he tells me yes, but it's just a conversation. It's a conversation starter, and these are instant conversation starters. And many of the parents and the people that I speak with, they all have these questions about adoption and about fostering. Can I adopt? I'm a divorced parent. I live in an apartment. And I'm like, and they're like, would that keep me from adopting? I used to smoke. Somebody said, I shoplifted 40 years ago and it still bothers me. And if they ask me if have I ever done anything, would that keep me from adopting? I shoplifted and I didn't even get caught, but I shoplifted, but I'm gonna have to tell you I shoplifted. So I just want to have a small conversation with you and get your name and your address, and maybe you might say, hey, Stephen, can you send me 2 books? Can you send me 1 book that I want to drop off at my church or my sorority meeting? Because these photo listing books, they do their own talking. They walk you through the entire process to adopting and or fostering. So you don't even have to say much. The only thing you have to do is say, hey, Stephen, here's my address, here's my card, mail me about 2 or 3 of those books, and let's stay in contact. And I'm gonna say, let's do that. Thank you for your time.
There's someone before you who talk about community engagement and how to do some simple things, all right? Wayne Noggle is the president of Families for Families. Wayne, coming up.
Good morning. My name is Wayne, and I'll give you all my quick story. My wife, we have 5 biological children, and my wife came home about 6 years ago and said, you know, we ought to look at fostering. And I thought, why? And but we did, and we went through a big long process, and you guys know the home study process and all that stuff if you're familiar with it. And we got a call on a Monday morning. They said, hey, your home's open. And I was like, okay, I had no idea what that meant. But I thought, okay, you know, DFACS uses all these terms that nobody understands but them. You know what I'm talking about? You know, they're like, hey, you go to the FTM, you know, like what? You know, so anyway, so they were talking all these terms with us. And so they called back 5 minutes later and they said, hey, y'all ready for your first placement? And we said, yeah. And so we, 3 days later, we drove down to Grady Hospital and picked a little girl up that was born and left behind a dumpster down there. And she had 5 drugs in her system, and mom did alcohol use and cocaine, and mom already had other kids in foster care. And so we bring her in our home, and lots of trips to CHOA and seizures and all the stuff that every foster parent goes through. Really nothing special about what we did, and nothing special about our girl. And we're talking adoption with Fulton County, and 53 weeks later to the day, we get a second phone call. Mom's had another baby, and we thought you could only put 6 kids in a home, but we've learned one thing about DFACS. For every policy they have, they make a waiver for it. There's a waiver for it. All right, I'm just, you know, you can judge me later, but they do. And if you'll take a kid, they're pretty available that day. They just happen to have one that day. And so sure enough, we got a waiver. And 3 days later, we went and got this other little girl. She has a lot of special needs with her brain, and everything didn't develop right. And so a year later, we adopted both those little girls. And my wife and I, through that process, just really struggled with support, you know, and everybody loves you until they put a kid in your home. And then I get it, DFACS is on to the next family. Sometimes the private agencies are on to the next family because, man, they're rolling. And I speak at a church every Sunday. My next Sunday off is in January, actually. And we're starting an office in Dublin right now, so I'm down there every weekend. And every Sunday I say this, and you know, DFACS is understaffed because churches are not involved. In fact, if churches were involved, DFACS would have enough staff. And they're overworked because we've been under-obedient. And if you know, people say, you expect everybody in church to take a kid. No, there wouldn't be enough kids to go around. that if every church took one kid, only half the churches in the state would have to take a kid. Only half. If every pastor took a kid, we could eradicate the entire problem. Not every staff member, just one staff member. So to me, the problem's not very big at all. We're just not engaged in it. And so let me just show you guys some things we do with our agency, by the way. Dr. Miles asked if my staff was here. They're not, because we're opening 17 homes in October in Loganville, McDonough, Griffin area. And then we start placing kids in December down in Griffin and down in Dublin at our other office. And so let me share something you guys we do. This is one of the simple things we do. Any church can do it, any pastor can do it. We do the closed closet and the diaper drives, and we have Vacation Bible School, and first grader brings size 1, second grader brings size 2 diapers and car seats. And y'all know car seat stroller combos like $200, and so Sunday school classes buy those for us. And we give every family a stroller, every family a car seat, every family a bike if they need one, every family all the diapers they need. Our case managers take them out. And so we do that with churches, but here's one thing we do. Every one Friday night a month, we do a date night with a church, and we bring all of our kids to a church from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock on a Friday night. You can drop off your foster kids and your biological kids, or just your foster kids, or just your biological kids. And so it works out really well. So our last one we did at Snellville First Baptist in Snellville, and we had 52 kids at it. And it was a football game night in that area. Friday, before that date night, we picked up 6 kids from Walton County and Gwinnett County DFACS. And so we picked up 6 children, and we brought those kids to the date night because the parents were already going to a football game. And we said, you can just pick your kids up after the football game at like 10 o'clock. And so we had all these kids come in, and sibling group of 3, sibling group of 2, and then a 6-month-old that had some meth issues. And so we brought all these kids in. We brought all these workers in to work with the kids. And so we're talking to the workers, and they're talking about that. Well, tell me about this kid. And so we step out in the hall and talk about this kid. So that night, we had all these volunteers there. Well, 2 of the volunteers that left with information packets, because when they got around the kids, they found out the kids weren't the problem. Their families are what put them in foster care. Does that make sense? 80% of America believes the kids have done something wrong, and that's why they're in foster care. And that's not true at all. And so we had 2 volunteers that came to volunteer for a date night, and they left with information packets, and we're doing first visits with them this week, and we're starting the process, and we got them tagged for like January for the homes up. And so I challenge you guys as churches. I have cards in my pocket. I love to talk to you, whether we work in your area or not, just how you can be involved, and whether it's a date night, whether it's a mom's morning out, whether it's a dad's night, whether it's inviting foster families to your fall festival, whether it's a spring festival you're doing. I know fall festivals are getting ready to come up in October here, and also there are so many things that your churches are doing that you can engage families. Another thing our agency is just starting right now is, also this, children are not the problem. The problem is the families broke down. The children are just the result of the problem. And so what we do is we assign every kid in foster care, we go to their birth family and we assign them a mentor family. And the mentor family connects them with the local church, whether it's Celebrate Recovery, whether it's ESL, whether it's Resume Building, whether it's a guy in the church that owns a business with entry-level jobs. And so now we're seeing our birth families get jobs. We're seeing them come to ESL classes if they need it. We're seeing them come to Celebrate Recovery. Do you know churches offer parenting classes, and that's what these families need? And so we invite them to parenting classes, and we invite them to financial management, all those classes. And so I'd say this, every community has enough churches, and every church has enough services to service everybody in your community. We're in Dublin, and there's a county down there that has about 10 churches, but they've only got 3 kids in foster care. By January, we're going to have that county taken care of. When we go to Gwinnett County, we got 700-800 kids in foster care. Kathy Chapman told me last week, but there's like 600 churches, so we can fix that. And so that's our goal, is just to engage churches with our agency, and just everybody can do something simple that moves every family one step closer to getting their kids back and being a family again. And so that's what we do. I love talking to you. Just give you a card and come meet with you. And like I said, whether we serve your area or not, we'd love to get you guys involved as a church on a very easy, practical way. Thanks.
I want Wayne to tell a little story about the person that were complaining about a child who they thought was in foster care behavior.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, Dr. Miles. I've said it so much, it's probably true. No, I'm just kidding. No, we, sometimes, because we bring birth families in, we bring foster children in our date nights, and we also bring the foster families, which is their birth children, foster families, And so it's always funny because people always ask me, they're like, man, that kid over there is horrible, that 3-year-old. Is he MWO or something? I'm like, no, that's the preacher's kid, And so So, you know, that's, you know, they're like, man, that 13-year-old, they got a sassy mouth. That's my kid, you know? And so every kid has issues. And I think when your families just get around kids and they see they're just kids, man, they all have problems. And they all have issues. And man, there's two kids fighting. That's the deacon's kids, you know? They saw their dads fighting at a business meeting. And that's just kind of what happens. And so when y'all get around each other and you get families around each other, they get to see that, hey, kids are kids. And man, they just want somebody to pick them up, hug them, love on them. And that's what we try to do, so thanks.
Okay, folks, we're really wrapping up, but this is a takeaway for the day. You're going to hear about the needs that we have in this region, the number of foster homes that are needed, the number of children that are waiting. So no other person can do this better. Her name is Joyce White. She is the Resource Development Coordinator for the region. Joyce, come on down.
Thank you. I am the administrator for the Regional Caregiver Support and Retention. Caregiver Recruitment and Retention. That's kind of a new name for us, so I always have to stop and think about it when I say it. For Region 3, we, in my unit, and actually I guess you heard the cheerers over there, most of them are sitting over there in that area, but we are responsible for recruiting, developing, and retaining foster homes and adoptive homes for the region. Currently in Region 3, we have approximately 985 children in care, and while that seems like a large number, it actually is greatly reduced from what it has been from years in the past. As a region, we currently have 380 homes. Now that's including DFACS homes and our CPA homes. So as a region, there's about 380 homes. And just to kind of give you, and I realize it's kind of close to lunch, I'm going to kind of be a little quick here. But although our unit has been very busy across the region, just this past year, we have developed over 100 homes in this region. We have conducted over 90 information sessions, and that's where we go out and we talk to anybody that will listen to us to tell them about the need and the process for becoming a foster home. And our counties and our RD workers have worked very close and very hard these last few months with our CCP meetings, and that's our meetings that we meet monthly with our community partners and our CPAs, where we work very hard to try to keep our children in the community, because we realize it's hard enough coming into foster care, but when you have to be placed outside your community, that's even more trauma for that child. So we've been working very closely with our partners to keep our children local. So while we have been working very hard and we've made great strides this past year, we still have a great need in this region. We have a need for homes, foster homes that will take sibling groups. We have a lot, although we do have some empty beds here and there because of the new homes we've developed. We don't have a whole lot of homes that can take 3 and 4 and 5 siblings at one time. So what ends up happening usually is they have to be separated. And we also need homes that will take teenagers. You know, teenagers, a lot of people kind of shout you and you just mention the name. They're like, oh, you know, teenagers are hard. And they are hard, but you know, teenagers, they're children too, and they need someone to give them a chance, you know, to love them and support. And you know, every child that has come through the DFACS system that's been successful, and you ask what made a difference, most of the time they will tell you is that one person that gave them a chance, you know, that loved them and gave them that support. So they need homes as well. And I just want to share with you, when we talk about the need for siblings, and an experience that happened to me. Of course, I've been with DFACS 20 years, and I've had a lot of experiences over those 20 years, and some of those I'm sure you don't want to hear about. But one experience that I had, my office is actually located in one of our county offices, and it's just right down the hall from the CPA unit. the CPS unit, and they're the folks, the frontline folks that go out when there's an intake that comes in and does the assessment, and a lot of times they're the unit that has to bring in, you know, children because of safety or dangerous situations. So one afternoon, they went out on a call, and they're right down the hall, and I can hear a lot that goes on down the hall. The children had went out, and there was a dangerous situation, and the children had to be brought into care. There was a sibling group of 4. I think the oldest was a little girl. She was probably 7 or 8, and then she had smaller siblings. And of course, you know, when they come in, you can hear them down the hall, you know, the cries, you know, where's my mommy, my daddy, just real upset. So this was probably about lunchtime when they came in, and so, you know, folks went and got them lunch, and they were, you know, giving them some toys and trying to take care of them as we were looking for homes for the children. And of course, you know, we start out with our local homes to see who we have. First priority, keeping children together. Then we go to our regional homes, and we reach out to anyone around us trying to keep these siblings together. So of course it became, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, okay, we got to make some decisions. Well, Miss Smith can take one of them, Miss Jones can take 2 of them, and so you're trying to put the pieces together. So we soon realized we're not going to be able to keep these siblings together. So we made placements where we could. So the case manager has to go back to the room, and by this time the children are kind of calm, has to go back to the room to tell them, we've found some temporary foster home for you, this is what's going to happen. Then the cries from down the hall starts being, please don't separate me from my brother, from my sister, please don't put us in separate homes. And it was shortly after that time that I realized, that we as a community, sometimes we don't have control over when a child has to be removed because of a safety or a dangerous situation, but one thing we do have control over, and that is making sure that we have enough resources in our community so that these children do not have to be separated. That's one thing we have control over. So I would say to you, we have, and if I could have my resource development staff just stand up for just a second, the crew, just so that you know they are here. And we have a table back there where you can sign up and get more information about becoming a foster home. And we also have a long list of things that if you feel like that fostering is something you can't do, there's a long list of things that you can do to support caregivers and foster homes that do take care of these children. Because as Wayne says, there's so much that a church, the community can do to support these families, and they need the support. And when I say caregivers, I not only mean foster homes, but I mean relative homes, kinship placements, homes that take in these children. They need your support. So, any questions that anybody has? I know it's getting close to lunchtime, but as I said, my staff will be there to answer any questions, to take your name and information. But once again, just want to challenge you, everyone in this room, there is something that everyone can do to help keep siblings together and to help support those homes that do take siblings. Thank you.
I just want to make sure our takeaway is clear. So at this point, how many homes do you need developed in this area, in this region?
We always say that we need to get to the point so that every child that comes into foster care, we have 3 options for that child. So that we're not just having to place them in whoever's available who can take that age range. So if we have 985 children in foster care, we need 3 choices to be able to place that child in. So that's how many homes that we need in this region.
We have a problem.
We do.
And so the community has to solve that problem. We have 1,800, is that number about accurate? That many homes?
No, we have 380 homes, and that's with CPAs. DFACS and CPA homes.
Right.
Yes, so we have a large gap there that we need your help with.
Faith community, we're calling on you. And also the other takeaway is that we need sibling group homes.
Yes, yes.
We need sibling group homes, placements, and we need to make sure that we have homes for children. All right?
And teenagers. Teenagers. We need homes for teenagers, yes. And I know it's scary. People say, oh my gosh, teenagers. But, they're children too. And a lot of times what we find is they need love and they need that support, to help them become the person they need to be.
Wrapping up, this is the last comment. The department has published this wonderful document. It's called the Volunteer Service Opportunities Guide, and we've gone to all 3 divisions asking them what are their volunteer needs. Everything you want to find out about volunteering and or donating is in this document and who to contact. So I implore you to take a look at that. In a couple of weeks, well, at the end of October, we're actually publishing our corporate document. So corporations can see what DFACS need, what child support services need, and also what aging needs. But I implore you to take a look at this right here. It answers all your questions with contact persons. I do want to end by saying you've been absolutely a wonderful group. You sit here and hear us talk for an hour and a half, and my fast speech has probably driven you crazy. But it doesn't matter. You heard me anyway, right? Sure, right, absolutely, absolutely. You've been a wonderful group. We'll see you next time. If you have any questions, please see the staff that are here. The refreshments are here, and thank the church and thank the pastor for hosting us. We really appreciate you. Let's hear it for First Presbyterian Church. Have a great day and drive safely.